Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor. My name's Ashley, and if you love Target, you probably love the Target dollar spot just as much as I do. So today, I'm going to bring you some great Christmas DIYs using some of their new products that they just put out for Christmas. But first, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit that little notification bell so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And don't forget to click the drop-down menu and click all so you're notified about all notifications. All right, well, let's jump into these Target Dollar Spot Christmas DIYs. This first DIY is using this super cute snow globe that, of course, came from the Dollar Spot. It was $5, and if you have any idea what the gumball machines were from last year, I have a feeling this is going to be the same way. These are flying off the shelves. I can tell that these are so popular, so if you see them, grab them. They come in red, just like this, and white. Now, the first thing I did was, of course, remove the packaging, and you can see that it is hollow and it's kind of deep inside. So I'm going to have to build that up. So what I did was take some foam board, and I just traced the bottom of the globe part around there, and then I'm going to use my knife to go ahead and cut that out. We're going to create a really pretty Christmas snowy scene inside, but it was just a little too deep. So after I had that cut out, I took the packaging actually and I stuffed it at the bottom, and then I put that foam board right on top. Next, I'm going to hot glue the foam board to the top of the packaging, but I needed to cut it down just a little bit so it fit perfectly inside. Now, it doesn't have to look good because it is going to be covered, but you just want to make sure that the majority of the base is covered. So now I'm just going to hot glue that right on top of the plastic packaging. And you can see that I keep putting the globe part in there just to keep trying to test it out to make sure that it's going to fit. Next, I'm going to take this sheet of, I guess it's like a snow blanket type of thing. Now, this does have some little confettis or glitter all over it, so be careful when you open it because you will get a nice sparkly surprise. But what I did was I just cut off a small piece, and then I'm just going to wrap the foam board piece in that and tuck it in. So that way it hides the plastic and it hides the foam board. So as you can see, I'm just kind of tucking it under. And I will go around and hot glue that down as well after this, and you'll see why. Next, I took this pack of 2 Christmas trees, and I did hot glue it to the little blanket, but because the blanket was not glued down to the foam, it pulled off. So that's why you want to go ahead and hot glue down the blanket to the foam, and then you can hot glue the tree to the blanket. I hope that wasn't confusing. I promise this DIY is so easy. Alright, next I am still putting that globe on as I go just to kind of test it, and I do decide I'm going to add that second Christmas tree. So after I position it, I'm going to hot glue that down as well. And then to get the 2 trees to kind of go together, I just added some hot glue in between and pushed and held them until the glue set. Next, I'm going to take one of these really cute little red trucks with the tree, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that in front of the trees. Now, I didn't want the hanger on there, so I did untwist it, but I didn't realize that that was what was holding the tree on, so you're going to have to hot glue the tree back onto the truck, but it's not a big deal, super, super easy. So after I got the hanger off, I went ahead and hot glued my truck in front of the 2 trees. And I did hold it there until the glue set, and then I reinforced it by putting some glue on the back of the tires as well. Now, before I put my globe on, of course, no snow globe is complete without some snow. So I took some of this confetti snow. This was lots of fun to work with. And then I kind of tipped my whole display into the globe part. Now, when I put the globe on, I'm kind of realizing that the truck is hidden. So that means that I needed to raise the truck up. So I went ahead and took out my display. Now, here's where I also decided I really don't need that rubber piece because I'm not actually adding liquids inside here. And I think that that's what that's for. It's to protect from liquids to come out. So I went ahead and removed it. Now I went ahead and hot glued my globe back on, thinking that that would solve that problem of the truck, but then I'm realizing, nope, it really didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and again, I'm going to remove it. And to fix the problem of the truck, I'm actually going to take a tumbling tower block and I'm going to paint it white, and then I'm going to kind of cover it up with that glitter snow and then hot glue the truck on top of that, and that really helped to raise up the little red truck. Real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new, thank you so much for choosing to stop by today. I truly hope that you enjoy what you see and that you stick around with me for a while by hitting that subscribe button. If you're returning, you already know I love you, I appreciate you. Please keep the comments coming, please keep liking the video, and thank you so much for returning. So after I got my little red truck on my block, I went ahead and put the globe back on top and I secured it by hot gluing it down. And I thought that this made the cutest little snow globe. Now you can also add some super glue to secure it down as well. It's totally up to you. I think hot glue is good enough. It really took to that glass really well, and this is glass, so you do want to be careful. But I also made adjustments like adding in some more snow to hide the little tumbling tower block. I had to use a pencil to kind of get my truck all lined up. But like I said, this was just so cute. It was so fun to do. Of course, I gave it a little shake to make all the snow kind of go around the entire globe, and some of it stuck to the globe itself, which gave it that snowy and winter effect, and I absolutely loved how this came out. What do you think? For my next DIY, I'm going to use this set of 3 little wooden houses, of course from the dollar spot, and these were $5. I thought that, oh my goodness, the possibilities would be endless with these little houses, so I thought I would make them into a cute little rustic set. So the first thing I did was took my Waverly Antique wax, dipped a baby wipe in it, and I went ahead and faux stained the sides of each one of the houses. Now, I did not worry about the roof or the tops of the houses because I'm going to do something different. Then I did actually end up faux staining the back of each of the houses as well. Now, I was really careful not to get any on the front, but it really didn't matter at the end because I ended up covering it with some paper. I had something else in mind, which is why I was careful. But like I said, I went ahead and faux stained the back and covered the front. So you're going to have to let me know down in the comments, are you a Target Dollar Spot shopper? I'm going to be completely honest, I don't go to Target besides to go to the Target Dollar Spot. I usually don't shop at Target. So, but hey, listen, when their new Dollar Spot products come out, I have to go. So next, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white and I'm going to paint the tops of each one of the houses. Now, while I was painting the houses, if I got a little white paint on the chimney, that was okay because I actually loved the way that it gave it that little snowy effect. So I was okay with that. Then I took my brush and I dabbed around the back of the house just to give that a little snowy effect as well. Now I'm going to be taking 3 different types of scrapbooking paper that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to trace one house on each type of scrapbooking paper. Now the great part about this is you can pick out whatever paper you like. If these colors are not your style, then you can go pick out any ones, and that's how you can totally customize this set of houses. So after I had my scrapbook paper cut out, I'm going to take some Mod Podge and I'm going to adhere the paper to the front of my house. Now I did go through, make sure that all the edges were glued down, and then I took my sanding block and I'm going to sand in the down direction and get all of that excess paper that was hanging over off of my house. Now to go around the chimney, I actually used a nail file because it wasn't as thick, so I could easily get in between there. And that worked perfectly. So after my first house was done, I went ahead and did the same thing with the other 2 houses. So in my last video, I asked what your style for Christmas was, and I got a lot of really neat responses. I got a lot of traditional red, white, and green, and then I also got blues and silvers, which I think is gorgeous. I love those colors together as well. So definitely check me out on Facebook. We have a group where you can post any of your DIYs. I would love to see photos of your houses all decorated for Christmas this year. It's called Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor Group. All right, so after I had my houses covered with the paper, I took this piece of scrapbook paper that has all kinds of Christmas words and images, and I'm going to cut out that little comfort and joy section right to the side. And I am going to cut around it. That way I can get just the comfort and joy. You can see that there's like a little piece of another word there. Now, I'm going to Mod Podge this on one of my houses, but I really wanted to tear the edges because I thought it would give it like a really neat effect. But I was having such a hard time tearing it so close, and I was afraid to really go full force on it because I was afraid it was going to rip. So what I ended up doing was I had a baby wipe sitting next to me. So I actually took the baby wipe and wiped down the edges because that made it a little wet, and then it was so much easier to go around and rip the edges of my little piece of paper here. So I went around and I made sure to rip around the entire image. Once that was done, I took my Mod Podge again, and I'm just going to simply Mod Podge my image right in the middle of one of my houses. Next, I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to put a layer of that over the scrapbook paper on each one of my houses. That way it just kind of seals it all down and it makes it as though it's one. Next, of course, you know I gotta make this look a little rustic, so I'm going to take a makeup sponge and dip it in my Waverly Antique Wax and just dab all the way around the edges of my scrapbook paper. Now, I did go in the middle of some of the houses as well, but I did go around the edges of all 3. Now, if you don't like the rustic look, that's totally fine. You can just skip this step. You can keep them nice and clean. But you know me, I love that antiqued and rustic look, so I had to do it. All right, then to one of my taller houses, I'm going to take some twine and I'm going to wrap it around 4 times around the top of that house. I'm not going to add much detail to the other 2 houses because I wanted those to be simple, because I think that the scrapbook paper added enough detail. So you're going to see that I really did kept those a little, I just didn't go crazy on those. So I'm going to glue it off in the back. And then to my other one, I'm going to make a simple twine bow, and I'm going to hot glue that to the top of my other house. So when I display it, that's exactly how I'm going to lay these out. So I wanted to make sure that I put the bow in the right spot. And then I just cut off my tails. All right, now comes another fun part. I took some Mod Podge and I brushed the Mod Podge over each one of the roofs of the houses, and then I'm simply going to sprinkle some of that glitter confetti all over the roof. Now you can see I'm putting my finger over the chimney part because I don't want any to get in there, because it doesn't go, there's not a hole all the way through. It would collect in there. So I just wanted to cover it a little bit. And then I'm going to do that to all 3 of my houses. Even though this was kind of messy, I really did love the effect that this gave, and I thought it was so rustic, yet so whimsical and fun. I do think that Christmas is the perfect time to add some sparkle, because I just think it's so magical. Now I am going through and I'm adding some Mod Podge on the chimney, the tops of the chimney as well. That way some of that glitter gets on there and it looks like a snowy chimney. So after I had all the tops of my houses covered with snow, this little rustic house display was complete. I thought that this was so cute. It was a lot of fun to make, but what do you think? For my next DIY, I'm going to use this $5 little chalkboard easel. And this one was kind of out in the fall, but I was just recently at a Target dollar spot and I did see these, and it has a scoreboard on the side. So I don't really know what it was for, but this one was super simple. Now, I did use my Cricut for this, but you can definitely use stencils, you could use rub-on transfers, you can use stickers, you can hand draw it yourself. You can use stickers from Hobby Lobby too. There are so many different alternatives to using a Cricut, so if you don't have a vinyl cutting machine, that's okay, you can still do this. But all I did was went to the Cricut design space and I cut it out a design that said days until Christmas. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that cutout on my chalkboard, and I didn't even do anything to this chalkboard. I just opened it, got it out of the package, and then put my vinyl on. And now I'm gonna cut off a little stem of this tree, and to make it a little bigger, I'm actually gonna cut 2, and I'm going to twist the ends together. And I will add some hot glue to reinforce it, but I want to make a mini wreath. Now in this video, I'm going to show you 2 different types of ways to make Christmas countdowns. This is one of them, and then you'll see another one at the end as well. I just couldn't make up my mind of which one I wanted to make, so I made both. So I'm just going to add some hot glue, like I said, to reinforce the ends of this little wreath. I'm going to hold it into place until the glue dries. And then I'm going to take some of that berry vine, I guess it is, and I'm going to wrap it around. Now you can see that I had already glued the wreath onto the chalkboard, but I pulled it off because I forgot that I wanted to add these berries. So I'm just wrapping it around, twisting it around my wreath. And I'm just making sure that the berries are facing towards the front of my wreath. And then I went ahead and hot glued my wreath to the top of my easel. Then to add a little something something, I'm gonna take a little glitter red bow that I got from a pack of a bunch of little bows from the Dollar Tree, and I'm a terrible bow maker, so I picked up a few of these packs so I could just keep using them throughout the Christmas season, and they really came in handy last year, so I love that they put these little ones out. But I'm just gonna cut off the little twist tie on the back, and then I'm just simply going to hot glue my bow on the top of my wreath, and that was it. Now we have this cute little chalkboard countdown that would be perfect to count down the days until Christmas. What do you think? For my next DIY, I'm going to use this little, I don't know, palette sign pick. And again, this was kind of in the stores during fall, but I did just recently see some. This was $3. And then I'm going to pair it with this $1 Christmas card that came from the Dollar Tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut out the little red truck on the front of the card. Now this card was actually in a plastic wrap, which what you just saw. So it's not with like all the cards where the cards are. They're in their own little station or stand where there's wrapped cards. So I am going to go really close to the truck and cut it out. Now at first I did cut the tree with it too, but in a little bit you're going to see that I actually cut off the tree because I'm not going to use it. Okay, so next I'm going to take my makeup sponge and dip it in that Waverly chalk paint in white, and I'm just going to dab all the way around my palette board. Now I am going to go a little thicker on the tops and in the corners, but then down to the sides I'm going to make it a little thinner. After that, I took the bow off of the truck, and then this is when I decided I was going to actually just go ahead and cut the tree off. And instead of using that tree, I'm going to use one of these wooden trees. And I don't want the star on the top of that tree, so I'm just going to use my scissors and just cut it at a point towards the top. And then I'm going to sand it down so it's not so sharp. Next, I'm going to paint my tree with that Christmas green paint from Apple Barrel. Next, I'm going to take that makeup sponge again, and I'm just going to dab around the edges of my tree and a little in the middle to give it that snowy effect. This is your friendly reminder that if you're loving what you see so far, don't forget to give my video a thumbs up. Not only does it really help my channel to grow, but it tells YouTube you love what you see and you want to see more. So smash that like button. So to adhere my truck to the pallet sign, I'm actually going to use this like pop-up tape, and it's a double-sided tape. I call it 3D tape, and I did get this from the Dollar Tree. I just wanted the truck to stand a little bit out, and then also so I can stick the tree behind it. So I did put the truck down, then I stuck the tree behind it, and of course it made it a little thicker, so it wasn't even. So I went ahead and added an extra layer of that tape to the front part of the truck, and then I'm just going to use my hot glue to hot glue the tree down and the rest of the truck down. I hope that made sense. Then I'm going to add a little piece to the top of the truck just to make it even with everything else. Next, I'm going to take the bow that had originally come off that card, and I'm going to hot glue it back to the corner. And then I'm going to take that makeup sponge and I'm going to dab it all the way around the truck and on the tires, so it looks like the tires are in some snow. After that, I'm going to take this Happy Holidays little banner that was also on that card, and I'm just going to simply hot glue it to the top of my little pallet sign. Next, I'm going to take these little snowflakes that came in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just kind of arranging them, seeing where I want them to go. And then I'm going to paint each of them with that Waverly white chalk paint. Once they were dry, I did decide I wanted this sign to glisten. So I'm going to add some Mod Podge on each one of my snowflakes, and then I'm going to go over them with some of that glitter snow to kind of give them a sparkle. Next, I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to go around the edges of my palette sign, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a good amount of Mod Podge, and then I'm going to sprinkle some of that snow onto the Mod Podge. Now, I did kind of make it a little thicker in the corners, but I thought that this really brought the sign to life. It really made it glisten. And fun. After that dried, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue my snowflakes onto my sign. Now, I had pulled off that red bow that I had hot glued on because I wasn't really loving it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some of that white paint and I'm going to add some of that to the bow, but I'm also going to add it to the Happy Holiday banner up top as well. Then I'm also going to dab it onto my board too. I just felt like the two reds clash, so I could maybe tone down this red a little bit by adding that white. Then I went ahead and hot glued it back onto my sign. Now I felt like this just, I don't know, it just needed just one more little element of sparkle. So I took these rhinestones that I did get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to hot glue a silver rhinestone on to each one of my snowflakes and then to the middle of my bow. And I thought that this little touch totally completed my sign and brought it all together. This sign would be perfect to stick in a planter on your front porch, or I just stuck it in a Christmas bucket from last year. But you tell me, what do you think? For my last Target Spot DIY, I'm going to be using this Christmas tree chalkboard, and it's actually wood on the back, so technically it could be reversible. Now, I'm going to show you how to make another Christmas countdown. I almost was not going to add this in the video because this was a little hard. Not hard, but this just gave me some trouble. It just took a lot of figuring out, but eventually I got it done, and I think it came out so cute. So the first thing I did need to do was to paint some numbers. So I only had red numbers and I had black numbers, but I wanted them to be white. So I went ahead and took my Waverly chalk paint. I counted out how many of each number I would need, and I painted enough to cover my sign. I'm going to count down from 25 to 1 because I think that makes more sense. Like, there's 25 days until Christmas. On some of the countdowns, they started at 1 on top and went to 25, and I just didn't understand that. So I'm going to go, I guess, backwards. So after they were all dry, I just took my little weeding tool from Cricut, and I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to, like I said, start with 25. And I'm going to add the 25 on top. Now, here is where things got a little hasty. I moved these numbers around 100 times. I just thought that my positioning was correct, and it wasn't. So here's my advice. Go ahead and put your numbers down, but don't push them down all the way until you are for certain that's where they need to go. Also, write down on a piece of paper, you can see it next to me, that I wrote down how my design was going to be. And start with all the middle numbers first and work your way down for all the numbers. Instead of going side to side like I am right now, go down, because you want all of those middle numbers to be lined up and then the ones next to them to be lined up, and then of course it gets a little wider after that. Then this is when I realized I was not going to have enough room to do the fourth number, if that makes sense, or to make that line longer than the one above it. So I had to start moving this down. If I would have showed you the entire footage of this, we would be here all day. So I did cut a lot of this out because, like I said, I moved these around so much. So even what I would do maybe is even take a pencil and write it all down on your board first. That way you know the exact positioning of where you need this. If you have a Cricut, you can always just type this up and cut it out on your vinyl cutter, and then it would be all positioned out for you. But I wanted to show an alternative to using a vinyl cutter because I know not everybody has one. So I just really took my time, and this is sped up, so you can see how slow in reality I'm going. But I just took my time, and I'm just putting all of my my numbers down. Now, when you paint these numbers, something I want to mention is don't absolutely saturate these numbers with paint. They will make them too flimsy to use and take away their stickiness. So just make sure to do some light coats. Now you will have to do a couple coats to completely cover the red and the black, but just make them light. Don't completely saturate them with paint. but just take your time and just arrange all of your numbers. So after I had all my numbers positioned, and you can see the columns definitely aren't perfect, but I just went with it. I took that little makeup sponge again and dipped it in some white paint and just dabbed around the edges to again give it that fun and snowy effect. Next, I took this little wooden cutout star that I got in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and at first I painted it yellow, and then I just decided that I don't know, it just was too bright, and I really didn't love it yellow. So after that dried, I'm actually going to go in with my gold metallic paint that I picked up from Walmart and give that a nice coat of that. And I really do think that that helped. It kind of dulled down the yellow a little bit, but it made it kind of two-toned, so it was kind of fun. After that dried, I did use my Cricut and I cut out days until. Now I changed this up a little bit, which is why I have Christmas cut out there in the corner, and I am positioning this kind of towards the top, but in a little bit you're going to see that I actually moved the days until to the middle of the star. This is because I actually decided to make Christmas a little bigger and put it at the bottom of my tree. And again, I cut this out from my Cricut, but if you don't have a vinyl cutter, you can use stickers, you can use stencils, you can just write it on, hand write it, you can use rub-on transfers, whatever you have. Now, because I did move these numbers around a lot, they were losing their stickiness. So I did want to secure them down by putting a coat of Mod Podge on the top. After that dried, I took some hot glue and I hot glued my star to the top of my tree. And then I took another one of those branches, and I'm only going to use one this time. And I'm going to hot glue it together, and then I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm doing it over my trash can, which is out of frame here. But I actually cut down the little bristles, I guess, so that way they weren't so long. Next, I'm going to take another one of those little glitter ribbons or bows, and I hot glued it to the top. Then I'm going to take this little tack and I'm going to color the head with my black paint marker, and then once that dries, I'm just going to simply push it over the top of my numbers. Now I did go through and push it over the top of each one of my numbers. You don't have to do that. You could wait until that day and then do it. Totally up to you. So then that completed this little Christmas countdown, and I think this is so much fun, and my daughter will love moving that wreath every day. What do you think? So as you can see, the Target Dollar Spot is offering some pretty neat items this season, and this isn't even a fraction of what they had. I really had to stop myself from buying everything in the Target Dollar Spot. No, I do not work for Target. No, they do not pay me. I just love the Target Dollar Spot that much that I wanted to share all of these fun ideas that you can create with items from that section. They're so affordable and they're so fun, but the thing about Target Dollar Spot is the items, the products are great quality, but for not expensive prices. So you really get good bang for your buck. You're going to have to let me know down in the comments which one of these was your favorite DIY. Personally, I love that snow globe. I think it was so cute and it was easy to make, but I also loved that little red truck sign that was just shown. I love the countdowns too. I don't know. I think they're all really rustic and really festive. I want to thank you so much again for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and hey, share this with your friends. If they are ready to get into some Christmas crafting, they definitely want to follow my channel too. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!